Hi. What I want to talk about today is something I've been thinking about for a while, and I just thought I'd do a video about it. And what it is, it's this sort of dynamic, the tension between respect versus integrity. And I'll maybe have a go explaining what I mean. Out of those two, I suppose integrity is the one that I personally find most appealing. I think maybe it's just has some of the best descriptions. So there's that expression, speaking truth to power, which I really like. So yeah, I suppose I'm naturally drawn to that. I like to think of myself as an honest person as well. So yeah, that's the one that I would probably, if you had to pick one, that's the one I would normally pick. Speaking truth to power, acting with integrity, I would sort of say it's a good thing, but it's not without risk. Because the people that you're speaking to might not like what it is that you're saying. And I was thinking about good examples of that, and probably an example that everyone will know is A Few Good Men. And I think we can all remember the bit in A Few Good Men where it's like, I want the truth, and you can handle the truth. But before that, there's a bit where Tom Cruise's character is advised by the other counsel, his friend, that when they're taking the case. So Tom Cruise is going to, interrogate this, high-powered sort of military officer, and his mate says to him basically, look, if you don't think you can get him, back off, because the cost to you is going to be too high. And that bit really sticks in. So it's like, although, the Tom Cruise character is like trying to get the truth, basically that's what he's seeking. He's being advised by his mate that, there is a risk to this, like if you're going against what is basically the power, the authority within the situation, the rank of the military, and that chain of command thing. If you're going against that, then you're taking a personal risk in doing it. And I think that's quite an interesting sort of thing to bear in mind. So, and I think it's because what's happening there is like if he goes against it and he doesn't get there, it's a perceived lack of respect. And it's insubordinate. In military terms, it's insubordinate. So he can be charged as well. So even though he's just doing his job, he can be charged and he can find himself like suffering the consequences of acting with integrity, but acting against the power structure. So as I sort of say, I think, there's a dynamic between the two of them, and a tension between the two things. Okay. So that's like what I've been thinking about. Why am I thinking about it? Because we have them both as values at work. So we have 4 values at work, one of which is respect and the other one is integrity. And what I've tended to notice, over the last few months is there's a lot of emphasis about respect. You find that people talk about respect a lot of the time, and it's the one that comes up most often. I would sort of say, when we're looking at the values internally, I would sort of say that's the one that's probably mentioned the most. And you don't find anywhere near as much emphasis on acting with integrity. The other day there at work, we have a whistleblowing procedure, and we have a whistleblowing training module you can do online. And I went through it, and I did it, and I was going through this training module about, emphasising whistleblowing and calling people out if things are going wrong and all the places that you're safe to do it. And it didn't link to integrity at all. There was no, this is an internal piece of training where I work, and there was nothing that sort of said, by the way, if you're whistleblowing, you are acting with integrity, you are acting within one of the council values, you are exhibiting a value of the council. So there wasn't that connection there. And I put something at the end of it, and I sort of said, I'm really surprised that I've done this, and there's no emphasis that this is actually a council value. So I found that quite strange. I think, so as I sort of say, I've noticed that, it seems to be more about respect and less about integrity. The other thing that I really noticed about it is, I have an expression that I quite like, and the expression is, there's what we say and then there's what people hear. And I think that comes into play here, because I think sometimes the way that respect is emphasised within, or just in general, but, in particular, the experiences that I've had, the way that you emphasise respect, people intuit what they're actually being sort of said. So I think sometimes what respect, you might be sort of saying act with respect, but when it comes across as act with deference, we expect you to defer in these situations to the people with more authority or more seniority or whatever. And one of the things I've noticed when people talk about respect within the workplace is that the people who talk about it the most are senior management. So basically senior management are pointing at the rest of us and saying, you will act with respect. And I don't see how that can come across as anything other than hierarchical. You know, if that's the person that's telling you to be respectful, it feels more about you shall defer to me. And because I don't think there's a problem, and I've never heard it said that there's a problem where I work about peer-to-peer respect. It's never brought up in that way. It's never brought up about you guys need to respect each other. You know, you don't hear the other people talking about it. I mean, I suppose when they do give the message, they're saying everybody should respect everybody, but the people giving the message are senior management, and if it's not senior management, then it's the human resource department, who once again are kind of, you know, they're the rule, you know, they're the guys with the rule book and the disciplinary procedures and all the other things there. So if these are the parts of the organisation that are emphasising this, you know, you must respect, you know, you must act with respect, and they don't do the same for integrity, then that to me is sort of saying respect is more important than integrity. And I personally don't agree with that. That's not how I think. I think integrity is more important than respect. I think if you emphasise respect too much, what happens is you lose integrity. People don't feel able to talk out. Like the Tom Cruise character, they feel that if they go so far and say something, there's going to be personal consequences to them for acting honestly. So if you've got people who have honestly want to express an opinion about something, but don't feel able to do so because it's going to be perceived as a lack of respect to either the people in power or to the structure or the, you know, the values of the organisation, and I think you're going to lose out with that, and I think the balance is all wrong. So anyway, you know, these are just my views, and to be honest with you, you know, my views, and they're largely influenced from, you know, as I say, what I can see in my workplace, and, you know, these two things act in tension with each other. It applies to other scenarios, you know, like I've kept it fairly restricted, but I'm sure you can think of yourselves where, like, you know, there's too much respect shown, there's a lack of integrity. If that's how you view it, you may well view it the other way around. You may well sort of prize respect over integrity, and that's fair enough. But not for me. For me, it's got to be integrity first of all. I mean, I've given the example, you know, A Few Good Men. Another example that sort of springs to mind, obviously, is The Emperor's New Clothes, which is something, you know, it's a fairly ancient story. But I think, you know, that still holds relevance. And that, for me, you know, as well as, you know, the other things that go into that story, the other fact is that people were just showing far too much deference to the emperor. And then eventually somebody, you know, decided to speak with integrity and say, you're naked, mate. Okay, thanks very much for your time. Hope you found it interesting. Hope it's, you know, provoked a bit of thought for you. Okay, thanks very much. Bye-bye.